Here's how to make the SuperWalrus V2 mod. This pen mod takes very long to make, so be patient when doing all the steps. Before getting started, make sure you wear a mask and proper eye protection since there will be lots of sanding and cutting steps in this tutorial. Now let's get started. Take your Comssas and remove the caps. If you have a drill or some drill bits, go ahead and hollow out your Comssa cap. But if you're like me and you only have an X-Acto knife to hollow out your Comssa cap, go ahead and take an RSVP and remove the cap. Now take some tape and put it right below the bumps on the RSVP cap. Now take your saw and saw off the RSVP cap below the bumps. Now take your sawed off cap and file it as needed. After rinsing, your cap should look something like this. Now take one of your Comssa bodies and put the Comssa cap back on the pen. Take your cut RSVP cap and put it on the Comssa cap. To hollow Comssa cap while it's on this body, what you're going to do is you're going to take your X-Acto knife. You're going to put the X-Acto knife right in between this gap here, between two of the nubs. What you're going to do is you're going to lean your blade forward, and then you're going to push back. You're going to pretty much lean forward on that nub right there, and you're going to cut the top. And then when you push back, you're going to cut the bottom. I want to tell you not to use too much force because you might accidentally cut through the cap. And if you're not using this RSVP cap right here, it's a very sure way to cut yourself. So be very careful while you're trying to wiggle through the nubs as you go around. And eventually you're going to cut through one of the nubs by just wiggling it very slowly. You're just going to feel it come out. And you're going to continue this all the way around until you cut all 6 of the nubs on the Comssa cap. As you can see, I've already cut one right here. And you don't have to cut through all the way to the bottom of the nub. If you just cut most of the top, you can actually pop it out at the end. Once you feel that all 6 nubs are cut most of the way through, and you can tell by the fact that it's leaning to one side or the other, and it seems to be pretty weak on all of the sides, what you're going to do now is you're going to take off your RSVP cap, and you're going to push down on your Comssa cap until you hear the nubs pop. You can go ahead and slide out this hollowed part out of the Comssa. And now you have successfully just done the hardest part of the tutorial, which is just hollowing out the Comssa cap. And if you push down on a Comssa cap and it doesn't pop, that just simply means you need to keep hollowing it out some more. Now we're going to repeat the same hollowing out with an X-Acto knife step for the other cap. We're going to put the X-Acto knife in between 2 of the nubs. You're going to lean forward, and then you're going to push back. So what I'm doing is essentially I'm leaning forward, and then I'm trying to cut this part of the nub, and then I'm leaning forward again and cutting. I'm just going to keep going around for all 6 nubs. So once you think you've cut down the Comssa cap nubs enough, you're going to go ahead and do the same thing. You're going to take off your RSVP cap, you're going to take off the Comssa cap, and then you're going to take your Comssa cap and you're going to push down until you hear it pop. Go ahead and let out the hollowed out piece fall out. Once you have finished hollowing out your Comssa caps with your X-Acto knife, take your TUL Stick ballpoint or your TUL Stick ballpoint subs and remove the tips. Now take your TUL Stick ballpoint tips or your tip subs and see if they lie flat against the Comssa cap edge right here. If your tip tends to wobble a little bit and it doesn't lie flat like this, it has like a little bit of space, that means the nubs aren't cut down very far. So that means you're going to have to file down these bumps until your tip sits flat. Repeat this for the other cap. Once you're done filing both caps, go on ahead and take your hybrid gel grips and remove the tips. Take your metal G3 and remove the tip. Now take your HGG tips and file them down until they fit into the metal G3 tip. For this step, I recommend using one of your HGG barrels so you'll have some leverage while you're sanding. I also recommend checking your HGG tip with your G3 tip every 2 or 3 minutes just to see if it fits. This process does take a while, so it is good to know when to stop. In the end, the sanded down HGG tip should look something like this. If you're planning on using the TUL Stick ballpoint tips or G3 metal tips for your mod, this is about as far as you need to sand for your HGG tip. But if you're planning on using Signos, which is what I recommend, or if you're planning on using the current TUL retractable ballpoints, you're going to have to sand down your tip even further so that the HGG tip will fit inside of the tips. In the end, the sanded down HGG tip for the TUL or Signo should look something like this. Repeat your respective sanding steps for the other HGG tip. Take your sanded down HGG tips and put them inside your TUL Stick tips or your TUL Stick tip subs. If you're worried that your HGG tips are going to fall out, you can wrap them with some Teflon tape before putting them inside the tips. Now take your skateboard ball bearing and remove the shields. Take your pliers and apply pressure to the space in between two balls until one of the brackets pops out. Now try to tear out one of the brackets by wiggling it loose. Remove the other bracket from your bearing. Now move all the ball bearings onto one side. Push on the inner race and the ball should fall out. Take two ball bearings and clean them with some rubbing alcohol. Wrap your ball bearings in Teflon tape until they fit inside the HGG tips. Take your penwish O-rings and put 3 on each cap. Now take 2 airfit rings and put them on the caps with the flat side facing the penwish O-rings. Here's how to remove the airfit ring from the airfit pens if you're not sure how. Take your Dr. Grip grips and cut them to the same length as your TUL Stick tip or your TUL Stick tip subs. Make sure you cut them from the lip side so that an airfit ring will be able to fit in it. Now take your Dr. Grips and put them on the caps. Now push your tips inside the caps as far as possible. Now make sure the edge of the Dr. Grip and the edge of the tips line up. Now push your airfit and your O-rings towards the Dr. Grip. Take 2 more airfit rings and a piece of paper and trace out 2 circles onto the piece of paper. Take your scissors and cut out these 2 circles. Take these pieces of paper and put them inside the airfit rings. Take your sailor grip and cut 2 1 sections off of it. Now super glue these sailor sections inside the airfit rings. Now super glue the airfit rings onto the Dr. Grips. Let these caps dry for about 2 to 3 hours. Now take your super parrot and remove both the caps and the tips. Cut off the blue piece from your super parrot barrel. Now take your pliers and remove this little blue piece from your super parrot. Empty out the rest of the super parrot barrel. Now clean your super parrot barrel using some acetone and a Ziploc bag. After a few seconds, the text should start sticking to the Ziploc bag. If you have any chalkiness or residue left on your super parrot body, clean it off with an eraser and a paper towel with some acetone. In the end, your super parrot barrel should look something like this. Now take your super parrot barrel and cut off the entire front tip. Take your Comssa bodies and remove the back plugs using the remainder of your Dr. Grip. Now cut 1.4 centimeters off of your Comssa back plugs. Hollow the front of your super parrot barrel using an X-Acto knife and a file until a Comssa back plug can partially fit in it. In the end, the front of your barrel should look something like this. If either side of your super parrot isn't flat, go ahead and file it down. Now file down one of your Comssa back plugs until it fits in the front of the super parrot barrel. Now take your TUL Stick ballpoint or your Signo and remove the grip. Now cut 2 sections of 1 to 2 millimeters off of this grip. Now take these grip sections and put them on the Comssa backplugs. Now take your filed down backplug and put it on the front of the SuperProt body. Now take your unfiled Comssa backplug and put it on the back of the SuperProt body. In the end, your finished body should look something like this. If either of your backplugs are loose when putting them in the body, go ahead and wrap them with some Teflon tape. Now we're going to wait for the caps to dry. Once your caps have finished drying, take some Teflon tape and wrap the backplugs. Now take your caps and put one on the front and one on the back. And there you go. That's how you make a SuperWalrus V2 mod. If you like this content, please don't hesitate to like or subscribe. If you have any questions or comments about this tutorial, please feel free to drop a comment below. Also feel free to support my Patreon, as I'll be making more tutorials in the coming months. And credits for this mod go to SuperWalrus, whose original explanation is in the description below. As always, this is Sept. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure you wear proper... Make sure you whopper.